We did in designing the wall. We got it exactly as you wanted it. Everything, including your protective plate on top. I say, why did we put that? And they said, we need it for extra protection. Fine plate. And we have everything you want. It's steel, it's concrete inside the steel, and then it's rebar.
He sounds like such a fucking idiot. Everything he says, he sounds so stupid.
It's as strong as you're going to get and strong as you can have, but we gave you 100% of what you wanted, so now you have no excuses. I didn't want you to have any excuses. And you set records, and we can't let the next administration even think about taking it down.
Is that the end of the wall right here?
I don't think that will happen. I think when you see what it does and how it's so important for our country, nobody's going to be touching it. And you are very proud of it, and you're proud of the work you did, because we really designed it together. We're joined together to celebrate a great achievement, the extraordinarily successful building of the wall on the southern border. Before we begin, I'd like to say that free speech is under assault like never before. The 25th Amendment is of zero risk to me, but will come back to haunt Joe Biden and the Biden administration.
That's a concerning thing to say.
As the expression goes, be careful what you wish for. The impeachment hoax is a continuation of the greatest and most vicious witch hunt in the history of our country, and is causing tremendous anger and division.
I'm sorry, and like every other Trump speech, he talks about the initial subject for 2 minutes and then goes back into bitching about how mean everyone is to him. Every single Trump speech is exactly the same.
And now I'd like to briefly address the events of last week. Millions of our citizens watched on Wednesday as a mob stormed the Capitol and trashed the halls of government.
He's going to say it's Antifa.
As I have consistently said throughout my administration, we believe in respecting America's history and traditions, not tearing them down. We believe in the rule of law, not in violence or rioting. Because of the pandemic, horrible, horrible, invisible enemy, and despite our tremendous success developing a vaccine years before it was thought evenly.
By which he means a German-Turkish couple with no funding from the U.S. made the vaccine.
Our advisors, it will take 7 years, 5 years, 10 years maybe. Well, we did it just like I said we would, and we had it out years and years before they thought it was possible. And we're now delivering it to states, including your state, where your governor and government are doing a terrific job in getting it administered in Texas. And Florida's doing great. Some of them are doing great. Some aren't doing as well, but they have all they can handle, and we get it to them as fast as they need it, and even faster. But they're calling it a medical miracle, and this has been a difficult year and a very difficult election. The pandemic has made it a very, very difficult year.
He keeps saying the pandemic, not China virus.
Virtually every country all over the world.
Oh, shit.
Now is
He's
the
been
time
compromised
for our nation to heal,
by Xi Jinping.
and it's time for peace and for calm, respect for law enforcement, and the great people within law enforcement, so many are here, is the foundation of the MAGA agenda. And we're a nation of law, and we're a nation of order.
8 days till he's out, by the way.
That is why we're here today to talk about what we must do to uphold the rule of law in America and how we must continue to support our law enforcement heroes, which is exactly what you are. Do you feel like a hero? Yeah, I think you do, right? You do, and you are. I want to thank Customs and Border Patrol Commissioner Mark Morgan, who's been incredible. Where's Mark? Mark, stand.
By the way, I'm looking on the side over here. I'm looking to see if there's any evidence of the border wall being effective. It's hard to tell because of the pandemic, which probably affects immigration in other ways, but I don't see any evidence that there's been an overall decrease, like in the undocumented immigration that has been a product of the wall. There are some particular sections of the wall where they say they're getting fewer encounters, but that could just be because people are not going to the portions of the border where there's a wall erected, you know? Like, if you build a wall around half of the border and you're like, oh, well, now nobody's coming to and nobody's getting through any of the areas with the wall, it's like, yeah, because they're going over to the area without the wall, obviously. So I don't see anything like substantive here. The wall probably is like minimally effective. Like it's a wall, it does something, but it's I don't. Why did we need this? What the fuck? Undocumented immigrants help our economy. They don't steal jobs from anybody. It's just all, it's been debunked over and over. Even Borjas, a conservative anti-immigration economist expert who cited on this massively, just this has been settled. Like everyone agrees.
It's never been before. We took on the cartels, the coyotes, and the special interests, and we restored the rule of law. For years, politicians ran for office promising to secure the border only to get elected and to do the absolute exact opposite. They even promised a wall, if you remember. About 10 years ago, they promised a wall, but they couldn't get it built. It wasn't easy getting it built. Getting it financed was tough. Getting it built was even tougher. All the different chains of title and all the different things we had to go through. Very, very complex and very difficult, but we got it done. But they had it years ago. You remember that better than anybody, right? And they never got it done.
Who are you pointing
at? They never, ever completed the task. And then ultimately the money was sent back to the federal government. Spent, but no wall was built. But unlike those who came before me, I kept my promises. And today we celebrate an extraordinary milestone, the completion of the promised 450 miles of border wall. 450
People asked in chat, from the numbers I've seen, about 40% or so of undocumented immigration in this country is done through overstaying visas. So that would not be something affected by the wall. Only a portion of undocumented immigration is like South Americans or Mexicans or Central Americans fucking running up from the South, you know. Obviously, that's not all of it.
Then I realized that's a long time. That's a big walk. A lot of the wall you have is incredibly natural. You have the mountains, you have the rivers, you have some very powerful water areas.
Yeah, it was already hard to get across.
Virtually impossible to get by, so we didn't need walls everywhere, but where we needed them, because it's been so successful that we've added
America's mighty rivers,
300 miles, and that's currently under construction. This was our original wish, to get these areas done where there was such trouble. And now we have it. It's either in construction or pre-construction, an additional 300 miles.
We'll do the FBI one after this.
In every region that we've built the wall, illegal crossings and drug smuggling have plummeted, absolutely plummeted. In the Rio Grande Valley, crossings have dropped nearly 80%. In Yuma, Arizona, illegal entries have been slashed by 90%. Nationwide, ICE and Border Patrol have seized over 2 million pounds of fentanyl, heroin, meth, and other deadly narcotics, saving thousands and thousands of lives. We've arrested nearly 500,000 illegal aliens with criminal records, some with very serious criminal records, of the type you don't want to know about, like murder. We removed nearly 20,000 gangs.
Very sinister crime stuff, the likes of which you couldn't even bear to listen to. Your ears couldn't withstand it. They did murders. What the fuck are you talking about?
American sovereignty. Our most important reform was ending catch and release. Not easy to do. You're dealing with Congress. It's very, very difficult, which is the functional equivalent of open borders, but even worse. It's catch and release them. It means release into our country, not into another country. This policy was exploited by vicious criminal organizations who understood the laws better than our people understood them for years, to spread misery and suffering and drugs all across the hemisphere. Now, instead of catch and release, we have detain and remove. It's called detain and remove. Doesn't that sound better? One of the biggest loopholes we closed was asylum fraud.
No, you just started ignoring international law on asylum seekers. There was no asylum fraud. You just stopped following the law.
You were released into the country. The most ridiculous thing anyone's ever seen. And we were taking in some people that you didn't want to have in your country. We instituted a series of historic policy changes to shut down asylum fraud, and that's what we did.
There was no
includes
asylum
the
fraud.
groundbreaking agreement with Mexico known as the Migrant Protection Protocols, or MPP.
And breaking international law on asylum seeking.
They have to wait in Mexico until their case is heard. They used to wait here, and when they were waiting, they would say bye-bye, and they'd...
Okay, if you're seeking asylum, can you think of any problem with forcing them to wait in the country they're trying to flee while you laboriously and extensively look through their papers? Can you think of any possible issue with that if people are fleeing the cartel? Any at all? There was at that point, it's not even asylum. It's just like normal immigration. There really wasn't any evidence of people skipping their like asylum court dates when they were let into the country. That just didn't happen. They didn't do that.
During the construction of the wall. And by the way, one of the big...
Oh, sorry, I just want to say, remember what we were talking about earlier about how Trump exclusively campaigns on xenophobia and racial animus? I wish... it's all coming back.
They can be working on other things related to crime and drug prevention and a lot of other elements they're working on, because we save massive numbers of people. And included here, we have the most sophisticated camera systems and most sophisticated electronic systems anywhere in the world. We implemented 3 historic agreements with the Northern Triangle. That's Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. Under these critical asylum cooperation agreements, the burden of illegal immigration is now shared all across the region. Now, when an illegal immigrant is arrested at our border, they can be sent to a neighboring country instead of into a U.S. community. Prior to my getting here, countries wouldn't accept them. They would say, no, no, no. I said, well, you got to take them. First month, I'll never forget. These gentlemen right here came to me. They said they won't take them back. They came. They may be murderers. They may be cartel heads. They may be some really vicious people. The countries didn't.
Why would a cartel head illegally immigrate into the country? What? Why would they ever do that? What are we talking about right now? What is happening?
It was amazing.
Oh,
and you people
hey,
know
C-SPAN,
better than
keep it
anyone.
together.
They wouldn't take them back. We'd have planes flying over, loaded up with people that we didn't want here. And they'd say, don't ever even think about landing that plane. And they'd take them by boat, and they'd take them by bus, and they wouldn't let them into their countries. And all of a sudden they say, welcome back. We love having you. So it was a great thing. And now they do take them back. And the relationship with those countries.
Yeah, look. Oh, that's chat. Hold on. There you go. And by the way, a good portion of those who don't are because of logistical errors. Like they forgot the date, they forgot the location, or they were unable to make it in time. This just wasn't an issue. This wasn't a problem.
And security and justice show how effective our reforms have been and how disastrous their removal would be. It would be a disaster for our country. I know they're thinking about removing them. I hope they don't do that. I hope they don't do that. It'll be an absolute travesty for our country. The report conclusively proves once and for all that aliens released at the border remain at large in the country and do not return home. They won't go home. And you rarely find them. It's very tough to find them. So we have aliens released in our country, many of whom are serious criminals. And
evidence does not prove that.
Don't ever start that process again. By contrast, under our policies, 98% of aliens that remain in DHS custody are removed. Simply put, if you enter the United States illegally, you are apprehended and immediately, safely removed from our country.
It is so insane to me that when Trump talks like this, there are fucking yuppie, white, fucking piece of shit Republicans who live up in Michigan who are clutching their pearls and breathing a deep sigh of relief. These motherfuckers are 1,600 miles away from the fucking border, and they finally were saying, I know that. There are millions of Americans who actually like live every day like in fear of the cartel illegal immigrant rolling up and fucking drive-buying their daughter during a prom night or something. Like, it's insane to me. Republican support is the strongest in most white rural places? Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, obviously. The more white people you cluster together without any exposure to any other fucking ethnic groups, the more likely it is that they're going to be racist. Diversity does make people smarter. There's more than one border, Vosh? Oh yeah, dude, the other wall we're building along the fucking Canadian border. What are you talking about? I mean, obviously, undocumented immigrants get all over the country. I mean, most of them are, you know, in Texas and New Mexico and California and stuff, but they do get all over the country. And you know what they do? They commit fewer crimes than their fucking domestic counterparts. Immigrants commit fewer crimes than Native American. By Native American, I mean like people who already live in America. But then, as they live here longer, and they spend more time in here, they start to commit more crime, until they're brought up to the mean of the native population. We are the corrupting influence. Now, undocumented immigrants do commit a little bit more crime. You know why? Because they're fucking excised from society. Have you ever played a video game? Like Dishonored, you know, one of them games. If you're moral, you can run around and kiss the cops, and if you're immoral, you have to hide in the sewers. And the thing is, if the cops don't like you, you know how you can't go to the regular marketplaces or hospitals anymore? Instead, now you've got to go to the secret underground hospitals and marketplaces. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about. You know, you get different roads in life. If you make a person a criminal by denying them citizenship or legitimate immigration status, you kind of force them into a position in life where they're going to encounter more criminality. They're going to have to rely on other undocumented immigrants, because then there's the shared snitches get stitches policy, in case you rat each other out to ICE. And you're going to have to run with a lot of other people, and very often they have more illicit ways of making money and blah, blah. The solution to all this is give everybody a path to citizenship and just fucking chill. By the way, I think it's really funny how all the same people in this country who are terrified of us falling behind China economically are also doing everything in their power to prevent us from growing our labor base. That's really interesting to me. China has 1.4 billion people. We have just over 300 million. We're less than a fourth of their population. If you want to keep up, I'm really sorry, you're gonna need the immigrants who come in, all right?
In particular, if our border security measures are reversed, it will trigger a tidal wave of illegal
He's
immigration,
triggered.
a wave like you've never seen before. And I can tell you that already waves are starting to come up from 2,000 and 1,000 and 500 miles away. We see what's coming. And they're coming because they think that it's gravy train at the end. It's going to be a gravy train.
Immigration is down.
Change the name from the caravans, which I think we came up with, to the gravy train, because that's what they're looking for.
Remember when Trump declared a national emergency and used his executive powers to send the military down to the southern border right before the midterms, and he used it as like a giant fear-mongering tactic to get people to vote Republican, because he said a caravan was running up from South America, and then it never came and nothing ever happened, and it was just him like using the authority of his presidency to deploy troops for no reason other than a publicity stunt? I remember that. That was good.
Is this whole world better than the incredible people right in front of me? To terminate those policies is knowingly to put America in really serious danger and to override the great career experts that have worked so hard, those from DHS. At this very moment, smugglers and coyotes are preparing to surge the border if our policies are loosened or removed. I mean, they're literally waiting, big groups of people, some of them very unsavory, I might add. This is an entirely preventable tragedy.
He keeps every time he talks about undocumented immigrants, he's like, these aliens, some of whom are very unsavory, these undocumented illegals who have done things unspeakable in the English dialect. Yes, these Mexican invaders whose crimes can only be expressed in the depraved language of the Hispanic. Like, every time he talks, he like vague posts so fucking hard.
Swore a sacred oath to uphold the law, and no political appointee should ever order them to violate that oath. These are real experts. They really get it. And I'll tell you who else gets it. The Hispanic population of our country.
Yeah, he's vague thinking. That's why everything he says is he's vague thinking. Just head empty. Just some general ideas up here. Because you know he has no fucking idea what he's talking about right now.
Governor of Texas called. Greg, great guy, great governor, called. He said, you had numbers that nobody's had since Reconstruction. Reconstruction means Civil War, and largely Hispanic. They understand it better than anybody, and they want law enforcement to help them live safe lives. The laws that Congress passed must be upheld. To the men and women of ICE, Customs and Border Protection, and all across DHS, law enforcement in general, you have earned the everlasting gratitude of our nation. You have no idea how much our nation loves you and respects you. I don't think you do have an idea, but it's true. I only hope and pray that your voice will be heard, honored, heeded, and respected long into the future. God bless you, God bless law enforcement, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you. Great.
All right, that's enough. Well, that was one of Trump's last speeches as a president. Isn't that funny? Yeah, that's about what I expected. Okay. Yeah, final points on this, man. The way we treat immigration in this country, the thing that really there are a lot of lefties who are protectionist as well. It's so fucking stupid, dude. I don't know why we're so anti-immigrant. Immigrants are so fucking cool, dude. They're so fucking good. They bring so much money into the country. They bring so much fucking cultural diversity. I like diversity. Maybe everyone else doesn't like diversity. I like the cultural diversity. But everyone likes money, right? Like, we all want America to be a vibrant and economically powerful country. Well, maybe you want to destroy me. Well, I don't know. Just... We all like that, right? Yeah, Bernie's a little... Oh, whoops, sorry. Bernie's a little committed to protectionism, but he's moved off that a little. I think a lot of people just think that, like, immigrants are icky, and that's it. Just, like, really fucking... Really... really animalistic, like, base, low IQ opposition to immigration. It's really dumb. Yeah. Tex-Mex is the product of diversity. Dude, all American culture is the product of diversity. If you ever want to trigger a neo-Nazi, all you have to do is point out that the last time America had undiluted European antiquity that formed its culture was the fucking day before the American Revolution, okay? Since then, it has been a non-stop cavalcade of fucking Mexicans, Italians, who were not considered fully white at the time, Irish, fucking Germans who were considered swarthy by Ben Franklin, Chinese when they came to work on the fucking railroads, when we freed all the fucking slaves, all the cool ass shit black people did. All you have to do to trigger a fucking ethno-nationalist is point out that basically all the cultural contributions from our country have been, like, at least in part, a construction of immigration. Well, black people being freed from slavery isn't immigration, but in that case, from ethnic and racial heterogeneity.